This isn't a scene from some dystopian movie. This is Cuba, right now. This is what it looks like there. Trump's fuel blockade has drastically cut off fuel imports into the country, plunging it into darkness and chaos. There's hospitals without power, ambulances can't run without fuel, and neither can the trash trucks, leaving trash and sewage to pile up in the streets. And for most Cubans, daily life has turned into a desperate struggle for survival. This is the story of how a geopolitical decision has turned into a humanitarian catastrophe. Let's get into it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, comment what you think, but more importantly, share this with everyone. This is a story that is not getting enough national attention here in the United States, and everyone needs to be talking about it because the effects of this could impact us all if this crisis spirals way out of control beyond the point of any repair. Now, Cuba is facing a critical moment. The U.S. embargo on the oil imports has just crippled the entire country. Cuba is facing a critical moment. The U.S. fuel blockade is literally crippling the country, and hospitals are having to shut down. Patients aren't getting the care they need. Ambulances, like I said, can't run, and sewage is piling up, trash is piling up, electrical power outages lasting more than 20 hours now, I'm getting reports of, are just unbearable. Life there is miserable. And on top of that, there's a food crisis. They don't have enough food, and children are literally on the streets begging. The humanitarian implications are staggering, and this will ultimately affect the United States if it's allowed to continue. And that's why we have to get loud about this and talk about it and share this information, because right now, most people don't even know about it. No one's talking about it. It's not in the mainstream news. There's a few articles here and there, but it's not a main news story. It's not headline news at the moment. But if it continues to worsen, it will be very soon, and for reasons we don't want it to be, because we could start seeing very, very bad diseases and viruses emerge from this situation. Nothing good is going to happen when you have trash and sewage lying in the streets of cities, overflowing. Nothing positive is going to come from that, and it has to be addressed. Cuba is just off our doorstep here in the United States. So how did this all get started? Well, Cuba has been under communist control for years and years, since as long as I can remember, since JFK was president and before then. And now what we're having is the United States has been wanting Cuba for years and years, wanting to remove its leadership, and it's finally coming to a head here with President Trump. And they're looking for a regime change and looking for vital assets that Cuba has. And if you know me, you probably know where I'm going with this. There's earth minerals there, nickel and cobalt, and there's also lots of sugarcane and tobacco. But Cuba has largely been cut off with the rest of the world since 1961, when diplomatic relations were ceased and John F. Kennedy issued a large, massive trade embargo. People that are familiar, that have left the country and come to the United States for asylum, they know and have told the stories that technology in Cuba largely is the way it was since the 1960s. The cars are the same, everything is pretty much the same. And they only produce about 40% of their own fuel in the country, which means they rely on imported fuel from countries like Russia or Venezuela. And that's how Trump's seizure of the Venezuelan oil tankers comes into play with all this. Lots of that oil was supposed to go to Cuba, and it's never arrived. And it's left them without the fuel needed to run their economy. As a result, the island is facing severe shortages, and Health Minister Jose Miranda has said that lives will be lost as a result of this. Many of the hospitals there run on generators that require fuel. Can you imagine being a patient there, staying alive by a ventilator that requires power, and when the generator runs out of fuel, that's it? Or that you need some sort of radiation treatment for your cancer, that will be cut off also. This is what they are facing. Food in the farmers markets is dwindling, and many of them just can't even get there because of the fuel rationing and just total shortage of fuel. The UN Human Rights Office has even reported threats to food supply and sovereignty due to this situation. Now, what I'm hearing is there is some food supply available in rural areas where it's being grown. The problem is they can't drive it to the urban areas it needs to get to. The impacts of this blockade, though, go far beyond hospitals and food. It goes to the sanitation department. Trash, sanitation services, they are crippled, and it's going to cause the largest disaster we have seen in a long time. Garbage bins are overflowing because the sanitation trucks can't pick up the trash. The rubbish trucks cannot run because they don't have fuel. It's been cut off by the embargo, by the blockade, and we're seeing this. The photos are coming out. This is real. This is happening, and this is going to create a horrible, horrible crisis as far as disease goes, viruses. We're going to start seeing things emerge that we haven't seen in years and years, maybe ever in our lifetimes. The public health hazards are just astronomical, and there is even a threat now to the country's water supply due to the lack of power, due to the lack of fuel. Many UN officials are calling this a serious violation of international law because of this humanitarian crisis that's been created. So what can be done to stop this? Well, we can speak out, share this video, let everyone know, and get loud. Comment what you think about it, and write the representatives in Congress. Call them, let them know your concerns. Post videos about it. And the international community is going to need to come together and recognize how serious this is and call for action and a reevaluation of this oil blockade. There also needs to be calls for humanitarian aid to flow freely into Cuba and end this crisis. We need to make sure that basic humanitarian needs are being met there, and that we can control the sanitation situation so that we don't have these horrible disease emerge, disease that are sprung upon us by mosquitoes, which are sure to be a huge issue, and even worse with all this trash lying around. President Trump's message to the leaders of Cuba: make a deal before it's too late. They are aware that this was going to happen, that these are the results of this blockade. So they know. And the Cuban officials there, well, they haven't made a deal yet. We haven't seen any breakthroughs yet. Is there even any diplomacy happening? Any talks to come to an agreement here? Right now, it doesn't look like there really is. So it's going to be upon us, the people, and the people of the world to call to end this, to bring awareness of it, and create the outrage that it should have. Because I see these images, and I'm so upset by this. Can you imagine if this was in the streets of the United States? How fed up people would be? We have to get to that level. Yes, Cuba is still a communist country and supported by Russia and others, but these are human beings that live there, caught in the mix of this, many of which had no choice in their circumstances or situation. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to spread this message and let everyone know, and I'll see you back here for the 411.